Welcome back, 7:17. You're watching BT Vancouver. The co-founders of We, Craig and Mark Kilberger, were grilled for 4 hours yesterday by the Commons Finance Committee about their involvement in the federal student volunteer aid program. Xiaoli Li has been following this story extensively for several weeks now. And Xiao, this turned into a bit of a blow-up yesterday. What happened?
Absolutely. I mean, it turned into a shouting match at several points, but the biggest piece of info coming out of that long session yesterday was when We co-founders, the Kilberger brothers, they said that the agreement for the Canada Student Services grant didn't actually include a provision for We to get compensated for the work, meaning they were just getting their expenses covered. But conservative finance critic Pierre Poilievre says that's not true. He says that the contribution agreement has a loophole that lets other Kilberger organizations get subcontracted for the work. The Kilbergers, of course, they disagreed, and that's when the shouting started, when the committee chair, Wayne Easter, I mean, he threatened to just shut down the whole meeting if Poilievre kept talking out of turn. From other critics, we had the NDP's Charlie Angus saying why the Kilbergers weren't registered as lobbyists, but the brothers said, I mean, they didn't meet the threshold for that. I believe for that you need to spend at least 20% of your working time doing lobbying work. And Bloc MP Réal Fortin wanted to know why the Trudeau family were hired as speakers. The Kilbergers say Margaret Trudeau is an expert in lived experience with mental health, but they also did say that there was no Trudeau other than Sophie Gregoire who was paid for speaking work before the 2015 elections. The Kilbergers say that's because We Day was still sort of getting on its feet back then, but the first event was back in 2007. So there's a lot of unanswered questions. And of course, earlier Canadaland publisher Jesse Brown said that We had hired private investigators to look into him and his family after Canadaland ran some pieces on We in 2018. Poilievre wanted to get some answers on that, but on 4 occasions, the Kilbergers just didn't give a clear answer.
Yeah, I remember when We Day was pretty popular before 2010. So I understand the Kilbergers, they tried to clarify some of the dynamics relating to the We Charity and the We Charity Foundation. Did that clear up any confusion?
A little, but it also created a bit more confusion because, I mean, the We Charity Foundation, if you'll recall, is the organization that actually signed the distribution agreement with the federal government, not the We Charity, not Me to We, you know, the for-profit arm that funds the charity. Now, it was reported earlier that the We Charity Foundation is a real estate holding company, but the Kilbergers say that's not correct at all. They said yesterday this is a nonprofit entity, and they were using a separate organization because the federal government wanted them to assume the liability for all these volunteers, and they wanted to use a separate organization to assume that liability for the student grant program. But there's a degree of opaqueness here because, of course, the We Charity board resigned en masse earlier this year, and it's not clear what the governance structure for this We Charity Foundation exactly is. So more questions coming out of it than answers, really.
And Justin Trudeau is set to testify tomorrow on this scandal. How unusual is it for a PM to testify?
As far as I can tell, it's unprecedented. Of course, there's a lot of committee minutes to go through if you want to go back throughout Canadian parliamentary history, but I can't recall an instance of a sitting prime minister submitting to a committee hearing like this. Katie Telford, his chief of staff, will also be testifying. That should prove interesting as well, because, of course, you'll recall during SNC Lavalin, Gerald Butts, the previous chief of staff, was also a key source of information for inquiries going into it. I seem to be saying this word a lot. We all seem to be saying this word a lot. This is just unprecedented.
Unprecedented. Yes, it is 2020. All right, Xiao, thank you so much for joining us again this morning. Take care, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
All right, that is